What if the world's most powerful decisions weren't made in parliaments or palaces, but in secret rooms, guarded by strange symbols and rituals no outsider was meant to see? Their mysterious origins, the power they wielded, the forbidden sides they tried to bury, and the conspiracies that turned them into legend. Illuminati. Few names ignite conspiracy theories quite like the Illuminati. Born in Bavaria in 1776, the group was founded by Adam Weishaupt, a law professor determined to free society from the grip of monarchs and the Catholic Church. His vision was bold, a movement dedicated to reason, secularism, and equality at a time when kings and clergy still ruled with absolute power. To spread their ideas, the Illuminati quietly recruited through Masonic lodges, drawing in politicians, aristocrats, and intellectuals. Within a few years, they had grown into a network of hundreds. Their influence could be felt in debates about rights and freedoms, and whispers began linking them to unrest across Europe. But secrecy and ambition are a dangerous mix. By the late 1780s, Bavarian authorities outlawed the group and forced it underground. That's when the stories exploded. Claims they had survived in disguise, guiding revolutions and slipping into the halls of government. Some even tied them to the French Revolution itself. The irony is that the real Illuminati lasted less than a decade, yet their myth has endured for centuries. And if a short-lived society could spark this much fear, imagine the legacy of one that commanded armies and controlled the flow of treasure. Knights Templar. The image of knights riding under a red cross belonged to the Knights Templar, one of the most powerful and controversial military orders of the Middle Ages. Founded around 1119, during the Crusades, their first mission was to protect Christian pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. But here's where it gets interesting. Within a century, they weren't just guardians anymore. They were a force that rivaled kingdoms. Their influence was immense. Kings borrowed money from them, nobles stored treasures with them, and their banking system allowed travelers to deposit funds in one city and withdraw them in another. Imagine that. A medieval version of international banking, centuries before modern banks existed. No wonder they became indispensable. But power always invites enemies. By the early 1300s, King Philip IV of France, drowning in debt, turned against them. With papal backing, the order was accused of heresy. Its leaders tortured, and many eliminated under brutal orders. And this is where history takes a darker turn. An unstoppable order, dismantled almost overnight. The legends, however, never faded. Tales of hidden treasure and forbidden knowledge kept their name alive. And if one society could leave this much mystery after being destroyed, what does that say about the ones that might have never revealed themselves at all? Rosicrucians. In the early 1600s, Europe was shaken by whispers of a hidden brotherhood, the Rosicrucians. Their symbol was a rose glowing on a cross, promised secret knowledge that could transform mankind. But the chilling part, nobody could prove that they were real. Pamphlets appeared out of nowhere, claiming the order had been founded by a wanderer named Christian Rosicrucians, who returned from the East carrying wisdom too dangerous for ordinary people. Were they visionaries, frauds, or something in between? The uncertainty only made the obsession stronger. The less evidence there was, the more Europe believed. The writings spoke of a universal reformation, blending faith with alchemy and mysticism. Scholars hunted for signs of the brotherhood, scientists echoed their ideas, and their influence seeped into movements that shaped the modern world. The Rosicrucians proved you don't need armies or wealth to shape history, you only need mystery. And from the storm of rumor, the world would soon meet a society whose secrecy was not imagined, but enforced through ritual and loyalty. Skull and Bones. Hidden inside Yale University is a society so secret, its meeting place is simply called the Tomb. Founded in 1832, Skull and Bones began as an elite fraternity, but quickly became a training ground for America's ruling class. Behind those sealed doors, members performed strange rituals and swore loyalty that bound them for life. The list of names that passed through is staggering. Presidents like George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush, senators like John Kerry, titans of finance, law, and media. For generations, Bonesmen have walked straight from Yale's campus into the halls of power. And here's the unsettling part. They carried the same bond they forged inside the tomb. Stories of initiation rites fueled the fascination. Coffins, confessions, even oaths over skulls. Outsiders can never be sure how much is true, but the secrecy is the point. It keeps the legend alive. Skull and Bones turned a student club into a machine for influence, and if a small group in a college town could grow into a shadow network shaping nations, imagine what happened when secrecy and politics collide on a much darker stage. The Thule Society. Germany after World War I was shattered. Hunger, humiliation, and chaos on every street. In Munich, a secret circle formed, calling itself the Thule Society. It cloaked itself in myth and occult symbols, but its real weapon was ideology. Members obsessed over the idea of a lost Aryan homeland and preached purity through mystical lectures and ritual gatherings. What looked like harmless fantasy soon took on a dangerous edge. The society bankrolled a fringe movement called the German Workers' Party, and that same group was later reborn as the Nazi Party. Hitler was not a formal member, but early supporters within Thule gave him the audience and stage that launched his rise. In this way, a society born in myth opened the path to dictatorship. The Thule Society faded by the 1920s, but the damage lingered. A handful of occult dreamers had left fingerprints on one of history's darkest regimes, and the next society held its influence from deep inside the church itself. Hashshashin, or assassins. Long before the word assassin became part of everyday language, it belonged to a shadowy sect that haunted the Middle East during the Crusades. Known as the Hashshashin, it emerged in the late 11th century under the leadership of Hassan-i-Sabah, who established a stronghold in the remote fortress of Alamut in Persia. From there, the group waged a campaign that terrified kings, sultans, and crusaders alike. The Hashshashin didn't fight with armies. They relied on infiltration and precision, sending followers to target high-profile leaders, generals, viziers, even religious figures. They struck boldly, often in daylight, turning each mission into a message. Their intimidation strategy worked so well that enemies sometimes surrendered rather than risk being singled out. Their name fueled the legend. Some chroniclers accused them of using hashish before missions, giving rise to the word assassin, though historians do debate this. What is certain is that their influence far outweighed their numbers. The Mongols eventually destroyed Alamut in the 1200s, scattering the sect. But the myth refused to die. The assassins proved that secrecy and intimidation could bend history, and the next society would wield its influence not with blades, but with rituals that redefine magic in the modern age. The Golden Dawn. In the late 19th century England, a society was born that would define modern occultism. This is the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Founded in 1887 by 3 Freemasons in London, William Wynne Westcott, Samuel Little, MacGregor Mathers, and William Robert Woodman, it promised members access to hidden knowledge that blended Hermeticism, Kabbalah, alchemy, and astrology. Membership required elaborate initiations. Degrees were marked by rituals full of symbols, chants, and theatrical ceremony. It wasn't just religion. It felt like stepping into a living drama. Among those drawn in were poets like W.B. Yeats, scientists and mystics, all chasing the promise of unlocking hidden truths. Unlike political societies, the Golden Dawn's influence was cultural. Its teachings laid the foundation for much of Western occult tradition, inspiring ceremonial magic, Wicca, and Aleister Crowley's Thelema. Even today, images of ritual magic owe much to its practices. But ambition and ego tore it apart. Splinter groups carried fragments of its teachings into the 20th century, keeping its influence alive. The Golden Dawn collapsed, yet its shadow stretched on. And in the redwood forests of California, another secret gathering of the powerful was preparing to write its own legend. Bohemian Grove. Deep in the redwood forests of California lies a secluded retreat that has fueled decades of speculation. Bohemian Grove. Founded in 1872 as a private club for artists and writers, it slowly evolved into an elite gathering where the world's most powerful men, business magnates, presidents, and military leaders could meet far from public eyes. Every July, members of the Bohemian Club converge for 2 weeks of ritual, networking, and secrecy. Outsiders aren't allowed past the gates, which has only stoked curiosity about what happens inside. One of the most infamous traditions is the cremation of care, a dramatic ceremony where robed figures gather around a giant stone owl to symbolically cast aside their worldly worries. To critics, it looks more like pagan ritual than summer camp. For conspiracy theorists, it's the ultimate example of how the powerful network in private while shaping decisions that affect the rest of the world. Defenders say it's harmless, just a retreat where leaders can relax without the pressures of office. But for many, the combination of secrecy, rituals, and political heavyweights makes Bohemian Grove a modern reminder that secret societies never truly went away. What they prove is simple. The less the world sees, the bigger the legends become. If you want more Hidden History Explained, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the next secret we uncover might change the way you see the past.